Okay, so let's try this again. So this map on the right is a map of San Antonio. And what these problems right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, asking you is to use this grid. I don't know if you can see it, but there's A, B, C, D here, and 1, 2, 3, 4 here. Use those grids to identify the position of the following places. So let me highlight where those are so you can see them better. Alamo Heights right here. So Alamo Heights is there. That's number 1. The Alamo right here is number 2. Castle Hills. Where's Castle Hills? Oh, okay, thank you. Castle Hills right there. And then UTSA is right here in this general area. Well, maybe not right there. So take a minute using A, B, C, D, and 1, 2, 3, 4. How would you use the letters and the numbers to identify the position of those things on the map? And just take a minute and write that down on your paper. Avery, what did you say for number 1, please? 3B. Ozzy, what did you put for number 2? 3C? Let's call in some Zoomers. I heard someone just leave Zoom. They were like, I hope she doesn't call me. Jaden, what'd you say for number 3? 3A? Dalian, what'd you say for number 4? 1A? All right, thank you. All right, thank you all. So one thing I noticed here is that everybody put the number first and the letter second. But on a map like this, you could have put it in another order. Like if I told you for number 1, if I said instead B3, would you still be able to find that on the map? It would get you to the exact same spot, right? So for maps, the order doesn't matter. For the Alamo, we could have put C3, we could have put A3 for Castle Hills, and A1 for UTSA, okay? That's what we would call unordered. But for mathematics, when we're using a coordinate plane, we actually do it in a specific order, and it happens to match the way that the answers you already gave me. You said this direction first, the left to right direction, and then you gave me the vertical direction second. And so on a map, the order doesn't matter, but in mathematics, when we're doing coordinate planes, it does matter. And that's what we're going to be talking about today as a quick review of, and that's why they're called ordered pairs, by the way. That might be one of those terms that you're so used to hearing that you don't really think about what it says anymore, but that word pairs means 2 things, right? An X and a Y, and ordered means in a certain order. The order is the left to right direction first and the up down direction second. So for this next part of the notes, we're going to use this entire blank space under those words where it says coordinate plane, quadrants and stuff. I want you to draw, so I'm going to use this entire bottom half of the page. We're going to draw these 2 lines. And these are called axes, right? Each one individually is an axis. I'm going to put arrows on that show it goes all the way forever and ever. This one right here is what we call the x-axis. So some vocabulary words. The x-axis goes horizontally, right? Left to right. Left to right. Or you might want to use the word horizontal. And the one that goes up and down, we usually label it with Y, and we call that the Y-axis. That goes up and down or vertical. Then this point right here where they intersect, does anybody remember the name for that point? Like the vocabulary word? It is 0, but that's a number, like the actual word or term that we call that. Origin. Origin, yep, perfect. Someone say that in the chat, let's see. Origin, thank you, Ashley. So the origin is where the two axes intersect each other. And like Tony said, that is 0, right? That's the 0, 0 point. I always think 0, 0 looks like a face. Don't you think it does? Like kind of like when you type faces, right? It kind of looks like that, like two eyes and so that's a special point, right? 0, 0, it's specific. But any point in general, so an ordered pair, 0, 0 is an ordered pair. But any ordered pair just has the general form x, y, where x is the horizontal distance from 0 or the origin, we'll say 0. And y is the vertical distance from 0. So we're going to do one specific point on here, but first we need some numbers put down. So I'm going to just do 5 units in every direction. I'm going to start at 0, okay? So 5 units in the positive x direction are here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 5 units in the positive vertical direction starting at 0. And then 5 to the negative horizontal direction. That means going out to negative infinity. That's still on the x-axis. And then 5 down towards negative infinity. And if I'm just going to put a random point on here, here's how you would graph if you had an xy point, an ordered pair that was 4, 2. Remember, you always start at the 0, 0, okay? And the first one is 4. It's positive x. That means when you're starting at 0, 0, you're going to go right 4 first. And then 2 in the y spot, y goes up and down. That means you're going to go up 2. And that's your point, 4, 2, right there. And you're going to put a big fat dot. Do the left or right direction first, and then the up down direction. And if the 4 had been negative, I would have gone to the left first. And then if the 2 had been negative, I would have gone down 2. And the last thing we want to talk about on the coordinate plane are the quadrants. So that word quad means 4. And in the coordinate plane, the four things that we have, this XY axis breaks the plane up into four pieces. The first one is this positive area. This is quadrant 1, and we use Roman numerals for that. Let me put it in blue so you can see it. So quadrant 1, and then we make like a C shape. So if you do the quadrants going around like this. So quadrant 1 is the easiest to remember, and then you just go to the left, and that's quadrant 2. So you make like a C shape and go all the way around. And then that would make this quadrant 3 and this quadrant 4. So that 0.42, which quadrant is that one in? 1, 2, 3, or 4? 1, right? Thank you. Does anybody need the screen up anymore before I switch? Zoomers, are you good? Can I switch screens? Okay. All right, so what we're going to do is practice writing ordered pairs from a graph. And we have this table down here. Now, if you're copying your own notes, you don't have to be super perfect, but just give yourself a simple table, abbreviate the titles on the table so it doesn't take you too long to write this down. But I will, if you're watching asynchronously, go ahead and pause the video so you can copy down whatever the section you want copied before we talk about the answers. So for E, we went to the right 4 and then down 2. And as an ordered pair, remember it's got parentheses. And the reason why I'm sort of making a big deal about them separately but then together as an ordered pair is a lot of times students will not put the parentheses on their ordered pair, which if you're turning in your papers, that's maybe not such a big deal because I could kind of understand where you're coming from. But if you're going to go off to college next year and do math somewhere where you have to enter all of your answers into a computer software, oftentimes it won't recognize your answer if you're not following the form exactly. And so without parentheses, it might say you have the wrong answer, even if you got the numbers right. So parentheses are important. Symbols in math are important. It's called notation. And then what quadrant is E in? Anybody? Is it 1, 2, 3, or 4? Yes. Thank you. It's quadrant 4, and you want to use a Roman numeral just for the practice, because in textbooks, that's how you'll see it done. So that's quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you take a minute and finish out the table. Do points F, G, and H. If you're watching Zoom or asynchronously, I'm going to zoom in to the graph real close for you. And then if you're watching asynchronously, just pause the video and fill in that table for yourself. Yes. Let's see if I can scoot this over. So there's the grid for those of you on Zoom or working asynchronously. Pause the video right now if you need a minute to do this when you're at home. All right, so for F. F didn't go anywhere to the left or right. So what do we put for the X coordinate? What number means didn't go anywhere? None, right? It means 0. Thank you. So we'll put 0 for the X coordinate because it did not go anywhere from left to right. Because here's F, right? Here. I just highlighted in green. So that means it goes 0 in the left or right direction. And then it goes down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's, since it had to go down, we know that's the negative direction. So it needs a negative. And as an ordered pair, it's 0, -5. And then here's an interesting question. Which quadrant would you say that is? Which quadrant is F in? You put both? Did anyone else have a different answer? You didn't put anything? Because it was kind of weird, right? I like the answer both, but I like this answer I'm going to write down better. None. They kind of mean the same thing, but it's a slight distinction. It doesn't really belong to either quadrant, right? It's on one of the axes. And then G, to get to G, if we're starting at 0, 0, we have to go left. 1, 2, 3, about 3.5 places, right? So if I'm going in the left direction, the 3.5 needs to be negative. You do the X direction first. And then we go down 1, 2, 3, 4. So that'll be -4. So as an ordered pair, it's -3.5, -4. And which quadrant is that one in? 3. Thank you. And then for the last one, the H. So to get to H, so starting at 0, we have to go left first. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places to the left. To the left is negative direction from 0. And then it's up 1, 2, 3. And when we go up, that's positive value. So -6, 3. And you probably have that's in the second. And then I want you to take a few minutes, draw your own graph, doesn't have to be perfect, and plot these points on there. And if you're copying your own notes, I wouldn't worry about copying the directions for this section. You know what to do. Just put down, copy the points, draw yourself a grid, and plot them. And I'll give you about a minute to do that. If you're working asynchronously, go ahead and pause your video while you finish. So for n, so to do -3, -5, remember you start at 0, 0. You go to the left 3, and the -5 means go down 5. So that point is right here, n. And then for k, you have to go -4.5. In the X direction, that's to the left. And then 8 in the Y direction, that goes up because it's positive. So first, -4.5, and then up 8. It's going to be super sloppy, sorry. Because I'm writing on my elbow. It's hard to stay straight. And then for 6, 0 for the L, you go back to 0, 0. You go 6 in the X direction, since it's positive, that's to the right. And then, excuse me, 0 in the Y direction, so you don't have to go up or down at all. And then there's your L. All right. So that was a quick review of plotting points, a few reminders about vocabulary, a reminder that you always go left or right first before you go up or down. So the assignment for today is a 2-sided worksheet. The first one, you just use the graph to decode the message on the bottom. And then the second part of the assignment is to make your own code and submit it to Google Classroom. So this assignment is 50 points for each thing. So it's 100 altogether. It's 50 points for decoding this graph, and then 50 points for making your own code that I will crack, So if you're copying your own notes and you don't have access to your internet, your Google Classroom, here is the picture. And you do not have to, if you're copying your own notes, you do not have to draw this whole thing out. I just want you to figure out the solution and put it in the private comment on your assignment. And then if you are copying your own notes, I can put the second side up for you in just a little bit as well.